My husband's lawyer slid the will across the polished table. My son's eyes glistened as he read aloud, "The mansion and $10 million unto Michael." Then the lawyer's voice dropped, "To his wife. Only the trailer out on Route 9. My son burst into laughter, sneering, "Go rot there, old woman!" Everyone joined him. I sat frozen, my world collapsing. But that night, when I opened the trailer door, the air shifted, and what I saw waiting inside made him drop to his knees. My name is Linda Harper, and I am 58 years old. For 35 years, I stood by my husband, Daniel. Through sickness, debts, and the long nights he came home weary from work, I was there. I cooked, I cleaned, I kept the house running when his business stumbled. I raised our only son, Michael, with every ounce of love I had. I thought loyalty meant security, that love would be remembered. But as the lawyer's words echoed in that cold office, I realized loyalty doesn't guarantee gratitude. The moment the will was read, I felt the ground tilt. My son's laugh was sharp, cutting through me like glass. He leaned close and whispered, "Guess you weren't worth much after all." My throat tightened. Around us, the relatives smirked. My sister-in-law shook her head with a pitying smile, as if I had earned this humiliation. I wanted to stand and speak, but my voice stuck. For years, I had believed Daniel and I were equals. We had struggled through near bankruptcy, and when he finally rebuilt his company, I thought our sacrifices would bind us forever. Instead, in his final act, he erased me from the life we built together. Michael wasted no time. Hours after the will was signed, he ordered me out of the mansion. "Pack your things." "You don't belong here anymore," he said, holding the deed like a trophy. His wife, Cassandra, strutted down the stairs with her pearls and perfume, her lips curling. "Don't take too long," she hissed. "We're already planning renovations." "That room you used? I want it gone." I stood at the foot of the staircase, suitcase trembling in my hand. "This is my home," I whispered. But Michael only pushed the door open wider. "Not anymore." The rusty trailer sat at the edge of town, leaning against weeds and forgotten time. Its paint peeled like dead skin, windows clouded with grime. I hadn't stepped inside it for over 30 years. It was where Daniel and I lived when we were first married, back when we had nothing, back when love seemed enough. Now it was a graveyard of memories and my exile. That night I sat on the trailer's steps, staring at the padlocked door. The key Daniel left me hung heavy in my palm. The silence of the fields pressed in, broken only by the whisper of crickets. My chest ached, my pride burned, and yet something inside me hardened. I thought about every insult I had swallowed, every time Cassandra mocked my clothes, every time Michael rolled his eyes when I asked him to visit, and now the final slap, thrown away like garbage. I slid the key into the lock. The door creaked open, coughing dust into the night air. The smell of wood rot and iron rust hit me first, but behind it, faintly, something else, a strange sweetness, sharp, unfamiliar. I stepped inside. The trailer was dark, but my hand brushed against something smooth. Plastic? Metal? My eyes adjusted, and in the corner, half buried under a sheet, I saw a trunk. Heavy, reinforced, untouched by the years. My heart pounded. Daniel had never spoken of leaving anything here. Why would he? Unless... I pulled the sheet back and the moonlight caught the steel. The trunk was locked, but not with an ordinary latch. It was engraved with initials I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I traced them. Behind me, the door groaned louder than before, though no wind stirred. I spun, breath caught in my throat. The fields outside were silent, too silent. Someone was watching. I clutched the trunk, my pulse hammering. For the first time since Daniel's funeral, a spark of fear mixed with something else. Curiosity, defiance. Whatever was inside this trailer wasn't meant for Michael. It was meant for me. And I knew, as my fingers gripped the cold lock, that once I opened it, nothing in my family would ever be the same again. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the trailer's rickety floor with the steel trunk in front of me, my hands resting on its cool surface. My mind raced with questions. Why would Daniel leave me this secret while giving Michael the mansion and money? Was this trunk his last message to me, a cruel joke, or a hidden truth? But I was too drained to pry it open. Instead, I leaned against the wall, staring into the shadows, my ears straining for the faintest sound outside. Whoever had been watching earlier never showed themselves again. Still, the feeling lingered, crawling under my skin. By morning, the sun spilled across the fields, painting the rust of the trailer a brighter red, almost mocking. I made myself coffee on the old gas stove. It sputtered and hissed, but worked. As I sipped the bitter brew, my mind drifted backward, unwilling but relentless. I remembered when Daniel and I first moved into this trailer. I was barely 21, carrying Michael in my arms. The trailer smelled the same then, metallic, suffocating. But we filled it with life. I cooked cheap meals, stretched every dollar, and stitched hand-me-downs into clothes for my growing boy. Daniel promised me, "Someday, Linda, I'll give you the world." I believed him. For decades, I believed him. I worked nights in diners while he tried to keep his construction company afloat. When Michael got sick at 6, it was me running between the hospital and the job. I pawned my mother's wedding ring to pay for his medicine. Daniel would come home, slump into the chair, and sigh, "You hold this family together, Linda." But the more his company grew, the less he said those words. Success hardened him. He started traveling, meeting clients, shaking hands with people who sneered at my worn dresses. He told me I embarrassed him once, just once. But that one word lodged in my heart like a nail. Michael, too, began to change. When he was a boy, he'd press his head to my chest and say I was the safest place in the world. But by high school, he laughed when classmates mocked my apron and calloused hands. "You don't get it, Mom," he'd snap. "You're just old-fashioned." Old-fashioned embarrassment. Not worth much. Those words returned, circling in my mind like vultures. They prepared me, in some cruel way, for the humiliation at the lawyer's office. But they didn't make it hurt any less. I placed my coffee down and walked over to the trunk again. I pulled, pushed, rattled the lock. Solid. I considered smashing it with a hammer, but some voice inside whispered, "Not yet." This wasn't just metal. This was a puzzle Daniel had left, maybe the only truth he hadn't spoken aloud. My phone buzzed. Michael. "Are you enjoying your palace?" he mocked as soon as I picked up. "Don't get too comfortable." "We're cutting the utilities in a week. Figure it out, Mom. You wanted independence, right?" "I never wanted this," I whispered. "Oh, don't start the drama," he groaned. "Dad trusted me with the money because I know how to handle it. You'd waste it. He gave you that dump because, well, that's what you're used to." He chuckled. "Rot there. Alone." He hung up before I could speak. I sat in silence, my fingers trembling around the phone. For a moment, the urge to cry overwhelmed me, but the tears never came. Instead, something else surged through me. Fire. If Daniel truly believed Michael deserved the fortune, why leave me this trailer? Why leave me the key to a trunk that had clearly been hidden, guarded, prepared? Daniel had made many mistakes, but he was not careless. This was intentional. I walked outside to clear my head. The fields stretched wide, dotted with oaks. Beyond them, the old road where trucks once roared past now lay nearly abandoned. The world had moved on. But standing there, I realized this trailer wasn't just a punishment. It was a stage, a test. That night, I gathered tools, a crowbar, a chisel, anything I could find in the shed behind the trailer. My hands blistered, sweat dripping, but the lock wouldn't budge. It was too sophisticated, nothing like an ordinary padlock. And then, as I was about to give up, I noticed it. A tiny engraving under the initials, numbers, a date. Not our anniversary. Not Michael's birthday, but one I recognized with a jolt. Daniel's bankruptcy filing 27 years ago. Why mark this trunk with the day we lost everything? Unless it was the day he started hiding something. As the realization sank in, headlights swept across the field. A car slowed, stopped near the fence. My heart pounded. No one had visited me since Daniel's funeral. I ducked behind the shed, gripping the crowbar. The car door opened. A figure stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, and silent. They walked toward the trailer with measured steps, pausing at the door. Then, without a word, they pressed something into the crack of the door frame, an envelope, and drove away. I waited until the taillights vanished before approaching. The envelope was thick, sealed with wax. My name scrawled across it in Daniel's handwriting. Hands shaking, I tore it open. Inside was a single key and a note. "Linda, if you are reading this, then I am gone. Trust no one, not even Michael. Open the trunk. The truth is yours." I dropped onto the steps, clutching the letter. My breath came in gasps. Daniel had hidden something from both of us, something big enough to keep secret until his death. The trunk loomed behind me, silent, waiting. And for the first time, I realized this trailer might hold more power than any mansion or fortune Michael could ever own. The key trembled in my hand long after the car's headlights disappeared. Daniel's handwriting danced before my eyes, each word burning into me. "Trust no one, not even Michael. The truth is yours." For years, I had trusted Daniel blindly. Even when he grew distant, even when Michael began treating me like an embarrassment, I held on to loyalty. And now, with one note, Daniel admitted that lies had lived in our home as thick as the dust in this trailer. I slid the key into the trunk's lock. My palms were slick, my breath shallow. The metal clicked, heavy and final. The lid creaked open. Inside lay stacks of folders neatly bound, yellowing at the edges. Beneath them, a leather pouch bulged, sealed with a drawstring. My hands hovered. I wasn't sure if I was uncovering salvation or another betrayal. I reached for the folders first. The top one bore Daniel's company letterhead, contracts. But not the ones I remembered typing for him late at night when he asked me to proofread. These were different, hidden. Many signed not by Daniel alone, but by another name I didn't recognize. Richard Hale. Page after page, deals, transfers, payments, all siphoned away. And at the bottom of the pile, a letter. "Daniel, the accounts are secured offshore under Hale's name. Harper's will never find out. Use them when the time is right." My vision blurred. Harper's will never find out. Harper. That was me. That was Michael. Who was this Richard Hale, and why was my husband hiding fortunes under his name? The pouch rattled when I pulled it out. I loosened the string. Gold coins spilled into my lap, gleaming even under the dim trailer light. Old, heavy coins, some etched with dates from the 1800s. My chest tightened. This wasn't just money. This was wealth older than our marriage, older than Daniel's business. I whispered into the silence. "What did you do, Daniel?" For years, I had believed our struggles were real, that every late bill, every foreclosure threat was the truth. But here was proof. While I pawned my wedding ring to pay for Michael's medicine, Daniel was hiding coins, contracts, accounts. He had let me scrape and beg while he protected something secret, something enormous. My first instinct was fury. But then I remembered his note. "The truth is yours?" If Daniel had hidden all this from Michael, then maybe, in his twisted way, he had saved it for me. A knock rattled the trailer door. I shoved the pouch under the trunk's folders and slammed it shut. My heart leapt. "Who's there?" "Mom?" Michael's voice, sharp, impatient. I froze. He hadn't called me Mom in years. Usually it was Linda, like I was a stranger. Now he was outside. Too soon after the envelope arrived. Too soon to be a coincidence. "I saw a car leave. Who was here?" he demanded. My throat tightened. "No one. Don't lie to me." His hand pounded the door. "Open it." I gripped the trunk, praying he couldn't hear my ragged breathing. He wasn't supposed to know. Not yet. Maybe not ever. When I didn't answer, Michael's voice lowered to a hiss. "You think you're smart? You think you can hide things from me? Dad trusted me. Me. If he left you something, I'll find it." His words cut deeper than the knock. He didn't mourn his father. He didn't care about me. All he wanted was control. I held my breath until his footsteps finally crunched away across the gravel. Only then did I collapse against the trunk, shaking. That night, I lay awake on the cot, staring at the ceiling, Daniel's letter clutched in my fist. Memories flooded back, the cracks I had ignored, the betrayals I had excused. I remembered when Michael turned 18. Daniel handed him a brand new car, gleaming and red, while I worked double shifts to pay for groceries. "He's our son," Daniel had said when I protested. "He deserves the best." But when I needed a new washing machine, he shrugged. "It can wait." I remembered when Cassandra first entered our lives. At dinner one night, she looked at me and said, "Linda, do you always cook such plain meals?" Michael laughed with her. Daniel said nothing, and I had smiled, swallowing humiliation like medicine. Those moments weren't small. They were seeds. And now I was sitting in the harvest, abandoned, humiliated, exiled to a trailer with only secrets for company. I pressed the pouch of coins to my chest. They were heavy but strangely comforting, proof that I wasn't crazy, proof that Daniel had left me something more than rust and rot. But what exactly had he left me? A fortune? A curse? Or both? By the third night, my decision was made. If Michael thought he could take everything and leave me with nothing, he was wrong. This trunk, these papers, they were mine. Daniel had written it himself, and I would uncover the truth, no matter how deep it cut. I began sorting the folders by date, scribbling notes on scraps of paper. Patterns emerged, payments tied to properties I had never heard of, accounts opened under false names, letters signed with initials I didn't recognize. The web was vast, bigger than I had imagined. And then, in one folder, I found it. A property deed. My name wasn't on it, neither was Michael's, but the owner's signature made my blood run cold. It was Daniel's, dated 2 years ago. Address, a downtown building I'd never visited, but scrawled across the margin in Daniel's unmistakable handwriting was a single line, "For Linda, when the time comes." I stared at the words until tears blurred them. My breath came in short gasps. Daniel had hidden property, money, secrets, and not for Michael, for me. But why? Before I could piece it together, my phone buzzed again. A message from Michael. "Don't test me, Mom. I'll come back tomorrow with Cassandra. If you've got something of Dad's, we'll find it. And if you try to keep it, you'll regret it." I clenched the phone so tightly the screen cracked. Michael thought he had already won. He thought I was broken, trapped in this trailer with nothing. But I wasn't broken. Not anymore. I looked at the deed again. Daniel's words burning in my mind. "For Linda, when the time comes." And I knew. The time had come. The night before Michael and Cassandra's promised visit, I barely slept. Every creak of the trailer made my body stiffen. Every whisper of wind through the broken shutters sounded like footsteps coming closer. I kept Daniel's letter under my pillow and the pouch of coins hidden beneath a loose floorboard. The deed I tucked inside my bra, close to my heart, where no one could snatch it away. By dawn, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to cry or beg, not this time. If they wanted to see me rot in this trailer, then let them come and watch me stand my ground. The gravel crunched before noon. Through the dusty window, I saw Michael's black SUV roll to a stop. Cassandra stepped out first, dressed like she was going to brunch at a country club instead of confronting her husband's grieving mother. Pearls gleamed around her neck, her sunglasses hiding eyes that I knew were always filled with contempt when they looked at me. Michael slammed his door shut and adjusted his suit jacket, like he was walking into a business meeting. He didn't even glance at the trailer with its sagging roof and peeling paint. His eyes locked on me standing in the doorway. "Well," he said, smirking. "Still alive." Cassandra's laugh was sharp. "Barely." I folded my arms. "What do you want?" Michael sauntered forward, every step deliberate, as if he owned the ground beneath him. "You know why we're here." "Don't play games. Dad didn't leave you anything worth dirt. If there's something here, papers, money, anything, it belongs to me." I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. "Your father left me this trailer, and I'll decide what's inside it. You've got your mansion. You've got your millions. Isn't that enough?" Michael's smile vanished. He leaned close, his voice low and cold. "It's never enough." Cassandra's heels clicked against the steps as she joined him. "Michael's being generous even coming here," she said. "We could have had you thrown out legally by now." "You don't want to make this harder for yourself, Linda. Just give us what you found." Her words confirmed it. They knew. Somehow they knew Daniel had left me something. I forced my face into stillness, praying my shaking hands didn't give me away. "There's nothing here but dust and rust." "Look around if you don't believe me." Michael's jaw tightened. He shoved past me into the trailer, Cassandra trailing behind, pinching her nose dramatically. "Ugh! Smells like mildew and regret." They tore through the place like vultures, yanking open cabinets, ripping drawers out, kicking aside broken furniture. My heart pounded as Michael's hand brushed against the floorboard where I had hidden the coins. But he moved on. When he turned to the trunk, my stomach dropped. He ran his hand along its lid. "What's this?" "Trash," I said quickly. "Old junk your father left behind." Michael crouched, inspecting the lock. "Strange kind of junk." "Looks valuable." Cassandra knelt beside him, her red nails tapping the metal. "Open it." I stepped forward, blocking them. "It's locked." Michael's eyes narrowed. "With what?" I held his gaze. "A lock without a key." For a moment we stood there, 3 statues in the dim trailer, the air thick with unspoken threats. Then Michael laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Fine, keep your junk. But remember this, Mom. If I find out you're hiding anything from me, I'll take it." And you won't like how Cassandra smirked, brushing past me toward the door. "Enjoy your palace, Linda." "Don't get too attached." They left as suddenly as they had arrived, their SUV kicking up dust as it roared down the road. I sank onto the cot, trembling. They hadn't found the coins or the deed, but it was only a matter of time before they returned. Michael's greed was a hunger that would never be satisfied. I pulled Daniel's letter out again, reading the line over and over. Trust no one, not even Michael. He had been right. My son was no longer the boy I raised, no longer the child who once whispered that I was his safe place. He was a stranger wearing my son's face, a man who would rather see me broken than let me keep a single scrap of dignity. But if Daniel had trusted me enough to leave this secret, then I had to be strong enough to use it. That night, I spread the folders across the table again. Patterns emerged clearer now. Accounts under Richard Hale's name, offshore transfers, even references to gold shipments. The more I read, the more it seemed like Daniel had been running a shadow empire, one that Michael knew nothing about. And then, buried in the pages, I found something that made my blood run cold. A letter addressed not to Daniel, but to me. It was dated 6 months before his death. "Linda, if Michael is reading this, it's too late. But if it's you, then know this. He will try to destroy you. Everything I left in the mansion and the accounts is poisoned. Debts, enemies, lawsuits. They will bury him. The true inheritance is here, in your hands. Guard it. When the time comes, use it." My fingers trembled so hard I nearly tore the paper. Daniel hadn't just left me scraps. He had left me everything. The mansion, the 10 million, that was a trap. And Michael had walked into it with open arms. I covered my mouth to stifle a laugh, bitter, broken, but real. For the first time since the will was read, I felt power stir inside me. But power draws enemies, and Michael would be back. As I folded the letter, headlights flared outside again. My stomach clenched. Too soon. Too soon. I peered through the window. It wasn't Michael's SUV this time. It was an unfamiliar sedan, plain and unmarked. A man stepped out, tall, with a cap pulled low. He didn't knock. He didn't hesitate. He walked straight to the trailer door and tried the handle. I held my breath. The lock rattled. Who was he? And what did he want from me? The doorknob rattled so hard I thought the rusted metal would snap. My pulse hammered against my ribs. I pressed my back to the wall, clutching the crowbar I'd kept close since Michael's last visit. The stranger didn't knock, didn't speak, just pushed against the door like he had every right to be inside. "Go away," I shouted, though my voice cracked. Silence, then a low, calm reply. "Mrs. Harper, I need to talk to you." About Daniel. The sound of my husband's name on a stranger's lips chilled me more than the night air. "Who are you?" I demanded. A pause. Then, "Someone who worked with him." "Please, open the door. Before your son comes back." My grip tightened on the crowbar. "Trust no one." Daniel's words screamed in my head. Still, something in the man's tone was different from Michael's cruelty or Cassandra's venom. It was urgent, but not mocking. I cracked the door just an inch, chain still latched. The man's face was shadowed under his cap, but I saw weathered skin, tired eyes, and a scar running from his temple to his jaw. "My name is Aaron Hale," he said softly. The name hit me like a stone. Hale. The same name scrawled on those contracts. Richard Hale. I slammed the door shut. "Get off my land!" "Please." His voice rose, desperate now. "I'm not your enemy." Daniel trusted me. He left things in your care that others would kill for. If Michael finds out what you're sitting on, he won't just laugh at you, he'll destroy you. I froze. How much did he know? How much had Daniel told him? The man sighed, his voice quieter. "Daniel and I, we weren't just business partners. We were brothers, in everything but blood. He used my name to hide assets, yes, but not from you. From them, from your son, from his wife, from the shark circling that money. I didn't move." His words twisted like knives. Part of me wanted to believe him, but part of me screamed, this could be another trick. "Go," I said, my voice low. "If you ever cared about Daniel, leave me in peace." His footsteps retreated after a moment. The sedan's engine roared, and then silence returned. I slid down against the door, trembling. If what he said was true, then Daniel had confided in this man more than in me. And yet, he'd chosen to leave the trunk and its secrets with me, not Aaron Hale. Why? The night stretched on. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing that scarred face. By morning, I decided I couldn't keep the secrets locked away any longer. If Michael came back, if Cassandra sniffed around again, they'd find something. I needed protection. Proof. I packed the most critical folders into a satchel. The deed, Daniel's letters, copies of the Hale contracts. Then I drove into town, my old Buick groaning down the highway until the courthouse came into view. Inside, the air was cool, sterile, smelling faintly of paper and polish. I approached the clerk's desk. "I need to verify a property deed," I said, holding the paper tight against my chest. The clerk adjusted her glasses, scanning the document. Her eyes widened. "Where did you get this?" "It was my husband's," I said carefully. She looked at me over her glasses. "Ma'am, this deed transfers ownership of the Harper Building downtown. Current estimated value? $8.4 million. My knees nearly buckled. $8 million. "Yes, but," she lowered her voice, "this isn't recorded in the county database. Whoever filed this made sure it stayed hidden." I swallowed hard. "Can it be transferred legally?" "Possibly, if you can prove Daniel intended it for you." I almost showed her the margin note. For Linda when the time comes, but I stopped myself. Too dangerous. If the wrong eyes saw that, it could vanish before I could act. I thanked her and left, my head spinning. $8 million hidden in my name if I could claim it. But as I reached my car, a figure leaned against it. Michael. My stomach dropped. Cassandra stood beside him, arms folded, smirk wide. "Funny place to be, Mom," Michael said, his voice oily. "Courthouse errands?" "What are you hiding?" I clutched the satchel to my chest. "Nothing you need to know." He snatched at it, but I jerked back. "Don't you dare." His face darkened. "Dad trusted me with everything. If you think you're entitled to more than scraps, you're delusional." Cassandra leaned closer, whispering in my ear, "Careful, Linda. You're playing with fire. People who cross Michael don't last long." Her perfume burned my nose, but her words burned deeper. I forced my voice to steady. "You've already taken your inheritance. Leave me the little dignity I have left." Michael's laugh was cold. "Dignity doesn't pay bills. Whatever Dad left you, it's mine, and I'll find it." He stepped back, eyes narrowing at the courthouse doors behind me. "Next time, I won't ask." They left, but their threat lingered like smoke. I sat in my car, gripping the wheel, my whole body shaking. Michael wasn't just greedy, he was dangerous. And Cassandra, she was the flame fanning his rage. As I drove back to the trailer, Daniel's words echoed louder than ever. Trust no one, not even Michael. But if Aaron Hale was telling the truth, if he really had been Daniel's partner, then maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this fight. That night, I opened the trailer door to find another envelope slipped beneath it. Inside, scrawled in the same handwriting as before, "You don't have much time. Meet me tomorrow, 8 p.m. at the Harper Building. Bring the deed. Trust me, or lose everything I held Aaron Hale's note until my hands ached. Meet me at the Harper Building. Trust me, or lose everything." His words pressed against the weight of Daniel's warning. Trust no one. All night I wrestled with it. If I ignored the message, Michael might eventually tear the trailer apart and find the trunk. If I went, I risked walking into a trap. But the more I stared at that deed, Daniel's handwriting whispering, "For Linda," when the time comes, the more I knew I couldn't stay still. By late afternoon, I made my decision. I stuffed the deed, Daniel's letters, and a few coins into my satchel. I slipped the crowbar into the trunk of my car, just in case. Before I left, I stood in the doorway of the trailer, staring out at the golden fields. "You wanted me to fight for this, didn't you, Daniel?" I whispered. "Fine. I'll fight." The Harper Building towered over downtown like a forgotten relic. Once it had been Daniel's pride, a project that nearly bankrupted us before it was completed. Then it sat empty, tenants leaving, rumors swirling. Daniel stopped talking about it years ago. Now, standing before its dark glass windows, I saw why. The place radiated secrets. At exactly 8 p.m., a figure stepped out of the shadows. Aaron Hale. His cap still pulled low, but this time I saw the weariness etched deep in his face, the scar twisting as he gave me a small nod. "You came," he said. "I shouldn't have," I snapped, clutching the satchel. "Why should I trust you?" He lifted his hands, palms open. "Because Daniel wanted you to. He left you the trailer, the trunk, the letters, all of it, for a reason. Michael can't know. If he does, he'll destroy everything your husband built." I studied him in the dim light. His eyes weren't cruel like Michael's. They were tired, maybe even haunted, but trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. "Prove it," I said. "Tell me something only Daniel would have told someone he trusted." Aaron hesitated, then said softly, "When you were pregnant with Michael." Daniel panicked. He told me he didn't know if he was ready to be a father. He said you deserved better than him. But when Michael was born, he cried in the hospital hallway. He told me he'd never let you down again. My breath caught. Daniel had never told me that. I looked away, my throat tightening. Why are you here now?" "Because Daniel's enemies didn't die with him," Aaron said. "There are men who want what he hid. Offshore accounts, gold, deeds. It's worth far more than the mansion or that 10 million your son's bragging about. And if you think Michael won't sell you out to them, you're wrong." A chill swept through me. "You're saying Daniel was involved in something criminal?" Aaron shook his head. "Not criminal, strategic. He built a fortune in shadows so the government, the banks, even his own son couldn't bleed it dry. But he didn't count on dying so soon. He thought he had time to teach you. Now it's just me, and the vultures circling." I tightened my grip on the satchel. Why me? Why didn't he just leave it to Michael? Aaron's jaw hardened. "Because Michael is greedy and reckless. Daniel saw it years ago. He left him a poisoned gift, the mansion and the 10 million. They're tied up in debts, lawsuits, investors who'll come calling soon. By the time Michael realizes it, he'll be drowning." My heart raced. "And what about me?" Aaron's eyes softened. "He trusted you with a real fortune. Because he knew you wouldn't waste it. You'd guard it. Use it when the time came I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the satchel at him and demand why Daniel had hidden all this from me. Instead, I swallowed hard and asked, 'So what now?'" Aaron motioned for me to follow. "Come inside. There's something you need to see." Every step into that building felt like stepping deeper into Daniel's ghost. The lobby was dark, the marble cracked, but Aaron's flashlight illuminated a path. We went down a stairwell into the basement. The air smelled of dust and oil. He stopped at a steel door and pulled out a key. "Daniel gave me this years ago. I was told to use it only if something happened to him." The door groaned open. Inside was a vault-like room lined with shelves, crates, boxes, binders, dozens of them. Aaron set his flashlight on a table. "This is what Daniel hid from everyone." I stepped closer, my fingers brushing over crates filled with gold coins, documents, even bearer bonds. It was overwhelming. Aaron leaned in. "It's yours, Linda. All of it. But you can't let Michael know. If he finds out, he'll drag you through courts, sell you to men you don't want to meet, or worse." I staggered back. My mind spun. I had walked into this, building, expecting maybe a few more deeds, a few hidden accounts. Instead, I was staring at a fortune that could buy nations. Before I could speak, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. My heart seized. Aaron cursed under his breath. "They followed you." The words barely left his lips before heavy footsteps thundered down the stairwell. A voice rang out, Michael's, furious and sharp. "Mom!" "What the hell are you hiding down here?" The beam of Michael's flashlight cut through the basement like a blade. His voice bellowed, echoing off the concrete walls. "Mom! What the hell is this?" Behind him, Cassandra's heels clacked against the steps. "I told you she was hiding something," she said, her tone dripping with triumph. Aaron stepped in front of me, his shoulders tense, blocking their view of the crates. But Michael's light swept across the room, landing on the shelves lined with gold, files, and boxes. His breath caught. "My God!" He stepped forward, stunned. This is all his? Dad had this the whole time?" Cassandra let out a low whistle. "And he left you rotting in that trailer? No wonder. He didn't trust you." Her eyes glittered like a predator's. "But lucky for us, Michael's his true heir. This is ours." I shook my head, clutching the satchel to my chest. "No, Daniel didn't leave this for you." Michael swung the flashlight at me, the glare forcing me to shield my eyes. "Don't you dare lie to me, Mom. All these years you played the martyr, whining about sacrifices. You don't deserve this." "I do." Dad trusted me. Aaron's voice was steady, though I could feel the tension in him. "Daniel left this for Linda. Not you. He knew you'd squander it." Michael sneered. "And who the hell are you? Some washed-up business partner? You've got no claim here." Aaron stepped closer, towering over him. "I was Daniel's shield. his shadow. Without me, none of this would exist, and he made it clear. It belongs to her. For a second, Michael faltered, uncertainty flickering across his face. But Cassandra leaned in, whispering something sharp into his ear. His expression hardened again. "You think you can stand in my way, old man?" Michael hissed. He turned the flashlight back on me. "Hand it over, Mom." "Whatever papers you've got." Now my chest heaved. For a moment I thought about surrendering, about handing him the satchel and walking away before this spiraled further. But then I remembered Daniel's letters, his warning, the look in Michael's eyes the day he laughed at me in the lawyer's office. He wouldn't stop. Even if I gave him everything, he'd find another way to strip me bare. I straightened my back. "No." Michael's face twisted with rage. "Don't test me." He lunged forward, snatching at the satchel. I stumbled back, gripping it tight. Aaron shoved him aside, sending Michael crashing into a crate. Gold coins spilled across the floor, clattering like gunfire. Cassandra shrieked, diving to scoop them up with greedy hands. "Michael, look!" she cried, stuffing them into her purse. "Stop!" I shouted. "This isn't yours!" But Michael was already scrambling up, his face red with fury. He yanked a crowbar off the wall, swinging it at Aaron. The sound of metal striking metal echoed as Aaron blocked the blow with his arm, grunting in pain. I screamed, "Michael, stop! You're going to kill him!" "Then he should have stayed out of my way!" Michael roared, raising the crowbar again. Instinct took over. I hurled the satchel at Cassandra, knocking her backward into a pile of boxes. Papers exploded into the air like snow. She screeched, clawing at them, desperate to grab every scrap. Aaron seized the moment, twisting the crowbar out of Michael's grip and tossing it aside. The two men grappled, their grunts filling the room, feet scraping across the floor. I rushed to the spilled papers, gathering them into my arms. My fingers brushed the deed, the one with Daniel's handwriting, and I shoved it inside my blouse. Cassandra lunged for it, but I slapped her hand away. "Over my dead body!" I spat. Her eyes narrowed. "That can be arranged." She sprang at me, nails flashing, her perfume choking the air. We tumbled to the ground, rolling across the cold concrete. Her fingers clawed at my face, but I shoved her back with all the strength left in me. "Michael!" she screamed. "Take it from her!" But Michael was losing ground. Aaron had him pinned against the crates, his scarred face twisted in grim determination. "Listen to me, Michael," Aaron barked. "Your father left you nothing but poison, debts, lawsuits, vultures waiting to feed. This fortune isn't yours. It never was." "Liar," Michael roared, spittle flying from his mouth. "He loved me. I'm his son." "Then why?" Aaron growled, forcing him down. "Did he leave it all with your mother?" Michael's eyes flicked toward me, and for a heartbeat I saw something raw. Betrayal, maybe even hurt. But it vanished in a flash of fury. "You manipulated him," he spat at me. "You turned him against me. You always wanted me to fail." My chest cracked with pain. "I gave you everything," I whispered. "I bled for you." And you laughed in my face. He thrashed harder, almost breaking free. Aaron struggled to hold him. Then Cassandra did the unthinkable. She snatched up the crowbar. "Michael, move!" she screamed, raising it high. "No!" I cried, scrambling to my feet. The crowbar came down with a sickening clang, missing Aaron by inches but smashing into a crate. Wood splintered, coins spilling like a river. Cassandra's greed overpowered her rage. She dropped the crowbar and began scooping them up, her purse overflowing. Michael shoved Aaron off and staggered to her side. Together they stuffed handfuls of gold into their bags, their pockets, even their shoes. "Run!" Cassandra hissed. "We'll come back for the rest later." Before Aaron or I could move, they bolted up the stairs, their laughter echoing, manic and wild. The vault was chaos. Coins scattered, papers torn, the air heavy with betrayal. I collapsed against the wall, clutching the deed to my chest. My body shook, my breath shallow. Aaron knelt beside me, his hand on my shoulder. "They don't understand what they've just done," he said grimly. That gold is traceable, and the accounts tied to those papers, they'll bury them before they make a dime. I looked at him, tears burning my eyes. They won't stop. They'll come back. They'll destroy me. Aaron's gaze hardened. Then we make sure they destroy themselves first. The vault looked like a battlefield after Michael and Cassandra fled, gold scattered across the floor, papers shredded, dust swirling in the flashlight's beam. I sat against the cold wall, trembling, clutching Daniel's deed against my chest like it was a lifeline. My son's laughter still rang in my ears, jagged and cruel. Aaron crouched beside me, his voice low but steady. "Linda, look at me." I forced my eyes up. His scarred face was grim but not unkind. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "They may have taken coins, but that's nothing compared to what you hold in your hands. That deed, those papers, that's the real power. They stole their own noose." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Aaron picked up one of the contracts from the floor, smoothing it with calloused fingers. "These accounts Daniel left behind? They're clean in your name, but some of the crates and coins, they're tied to shady deals, coded shipments, traceable. If Michael tries to cash in, the government, the banks, maybe even Daniel's old enemies, they'll all come crashing down on him." I stared at the coins glittering on the floor. "And he doesn't know." Aaron shook his head. "Greed blinds a man. He and Cassandra think they've struck gold. In truth, they just walked into a trap Daniel built years ago." For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope, but it was faint, fragile. "They'll be back," I whispered. "They won't stop until they've bled me dry." "Then we don't wait for them to come," Aaron said. "We take this into the light. But carefully, smartly, publicly." The word publicly sent a shiver down my spine. Michael thrived on appearances, his designer suits, his flashy cars, Cassandra parading at charity events as though she were royalty. To humiliate them in front of everyone would cut deeper than a knife. By the next morning, the plan began to form. Aaron contacted a lawyer he trusted, an older man named Whitaker, who owed Daniel favors from years back. I sat in Whitaker's office, the deed spread across the polished desk, my hands shaking as I explained. "This is Daniel's handwriting," I said. "Proof he meant this building. For me. Proof Michael wasn't his only heir." Whitaker adjusted his glasses, studying the note. "This is powerful evidence. With the right filings, we can secure your ownership. But," he hesitated, "if your son challenges this, it'll get messy. Family lawsuits are ugly, public. Are you prepared for that?" I swallowed hard. My whole life I'd avoided confrontation. I'd swallowed insults, endured humiliation, kept peace even when it cost me my pride. But now, Michael had declared war. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "I'm prepared." Whitaker gave a small nod. "Then we'll file immediately." Walking out of that office, papers clutched in my hand, I felt something shift inside me. For the first time since Daniel's funeral, I wasn't just surviving. I was fighting back. But Michael and Cassandra didn't wait long to make their next move. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a news alert. I opened it and nearly dropped the screen. "Prominent businessman Michael Harper under federal investigation after suspicious gold sales draw IRS attention." The article described how Michael had tried to sell antique coins to a private dealer. The transaction triggered alerts, given the coin's origins and ties to flagged accounts. The authorities were now looking into his finances, his inheritance, even the mansion. I couldn't stop the small, bitter laugh that bubbled out of me. Aaron was right. The coins were a trap, and Michael had walked straight into it. But Cassandra was quicker on her feet. Within hours, she was on social media, posting photos of them smiling at galas, boasting about family wealth, and dismissing the investigation as a misunderstanding. Still, the cracks showed. Rumors spread fast. By the week's end, I overheard whispers at the grocery store, neighbors murmuring about Michael's arrogance, Cassandra's cruelty. Their perfect facade was crumbling, but it wasn't enough. They could spin this, buy their way out. If they were going to be exposed, it had to be bigger. Public. Unavoidable. That chance came sooner than I expected. An invitation arrived in my mailbox, gaudy, gold-embossed, Cassandra's handwriting. You are cordially invited to the Harper Foundation Gala. Attendance required the gall. After throwing me out, after laughing at me, she had the audacity to summon me to their spectacle. I wanted to tear the invitation to shreds, but Aaron stopped me. This is it, he said. This is where we end them. In front of their world the night of the gala, I stood in the doorway of the Harper Mansion, my former home, wearing the plainest black dress I owned. Heads turned as I walked in, whispers trailing behind me. Cassandra, dripping diamonds, greeted me with a false smile sharp enough to cut. Linda, she purred, air kissing my cheek, how good of you to come. We wanted everyone to see how united the family is. Her grip on my arm was tight, her nails digging in. Behave, she hissed in my ear, or you'll regret it. But as I stepped into the grand ballroom, chandeliers glittering above, guests laughing and clinking glasses, I felt Daniel's letter burn in my mind. The truth is yours. I wasn't here to behave. I was here to burn their empire to the ground. The chandeliers blazed like false suns above the Harper Mansion ballroom, their light reflecting off polished marble floors and gilded mirrors. 100 guests in silk gowns and tailored tuxedos moved through the room like peacocks, sipping champagne and murmuring in polite tones. Everywhere I turned, I saw familiar faces, people who had once dined at my table, praised Daniel for his business acumen and dismissed me as nothing more than his wife. Now they glanced at me with thin smiles, surprise flickering in their eyes. I knew what they whispered behind their gloved hands. Why is she here? Isn't she the one left with nothing but that old trailer? I lifted my chin and let their stares slide off me. If I faltered now, if I showed weakness, Cassandra would win before the first toast was made. Speaking of her, she swept across the room in a red gown that clung to her like molten fire, dripping diamonds, her laugh piercing and false. Michael followed in his expensive suit, his smile wide, but his eyes darted, restless. The investigation had rattled him. He needed this gala to be proof that the Harpers were untouchable. When he spotted me, his smile froze. Cassandra's hand squeezed his arm, her lips curled in that practiced sneer. Look who showed up after all. Michael plastered on his host's grin and strode toward me, champagne glass in hand. Mother, he said, his voice warm enough for the crowd. I'm so glad you came. I met his eyes. You required it. The smile didn't reach his gaze. He leaned closer, whispering so only I could hear, Don't you dare cause a scene. Tonight's too important. Sit down, drink your wine, and keep your mouth shut. Cassandra joined him, looping her arm through his. She'll behave, she said smoothly. After all, she wouldn't want to embarrass herself. The words struck like a slap, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I let a faint smile play at my lips. We'll see. The evening dragged with speeches, hollow praise, and Michael parading his philanthropy. Cassandra beamed beside him, her hand always on his arm, as though she were holding up a king for his court. The guests clapped, oblivious to the rot beneath the gold. Finally, Michael raised his glass, commanding silence. Ladies and gentlemen, he declared, tonight isn't just about charity. It's about family, about legacy. He gestured toward Cassandra. Together, we will carry Daniel Harper's name into the future. Stronger, wealthier, more united than ever, applause thundered. I felt my throat tighten. United, wealthier. His lies filled the room like smoke. Cassandra stepped forward, her smile sharp. And to prove how strong our family bond is, We invited someone very special tonight." She turned, her eyes locking on me. "Linda Harper. The woman who taught my husband everything about resilience." Gasps rippled as every head swiveled. Michael extended a hand, his smile stretched thin. "Come, Mother." Say a few words I knew what they wanted, to parade me like a relic, to show I was still under their thumb, broken and docile. But Daniel's words burned in my mind. "Trust no one. The truth is yours." I stood, the deed pressed against my ribs beneath my dress. My voice trembled at first, but it grew stronger with every word. "Thank you," I said, stepping into the light. "Yes, Daniel left Michael the mansion, the 10 million, the spotlight. But he left me something too, something far more valuable." Michael stiffened. Cassandra's smile faltered. I pulled the folded deed from my dress and held it high. Daniel left me the Harper Building, $8.4 million in property, hidden, protected, signed in his hand. Gasps exploded. Guests craned their necks, whispers rising like a tide. Michael's face drained of color. "That's a lie," he shouted, stepping forward. "She forged it. She's trying to steal from me." But Aaron Hale emerged from the back of the room, his scarred face calm, his voice steady. "It's no lie. I was Daniel's partner. I witnessed the signing. The papers are real, and the authorities already have copies." Chaos erupted. Some guests gasped in shock. Others whispered eagerly, their eyes wide with scandal. Cameras flashed from the journalists Michael himself had invited to cover the gala. Michael lunged toward me, his voice breaking. "You can't do this to me, Mom. I'm his son. It's mine." For the first time, I didn't step back. I held his gaze, my voice cold and clear. "And yet he trusted me, not you." The silence that followed was louder than any shout. Guests stared, their perfect illusions shattered. Cassandra tugged at Michael's arm, hissing, "Stop! Everyone's watching." But Michael tore away, his face twisted with rage and desperation. "You'll regret this," he snarled, his voice shaking. "Both of you." He stormed from the ballroom, Cassandra scrambling after him, her gown dragging like a wounded flag. The doors slammed, leaving only the stunned murmurs of the crowd. I stood in the center of the room, breathless, the deed still in my hand. For the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't pitied. I was seen. Aaron stepped closer, his voice low enough for only me to hear. "You've done it. Tonight you took back your name." But in my chest, beneath the surge of vindication, a knot of dread remained. Michael wasn't finished. Men like him never stopped until they were ruined, or someone else was. And I knew the final act of this betrayal was still waiting. The gala dissolved into chaos. The moment Michael stormed out, guests whispered in frantic clusters, their voices bouncing against the marble walls. Some shook their heads with pity, others smirked as though they had just witnessed the fall of a king. I stood frozen, clutching the deed, the weight of the moment pressing down on me like an anchor. Aaron placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "You did well," he murmured, "but it's not over." He won't take this humiliation quietly. He was right. I knew my son too well. Michael was not the kind of man to slink away into obscurity. His pride was too swollen, his greed too feral. If anything, tonight had lit a fire that would drive him to desperation. By the time I returned to the trailer, the phone was already ringing. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. Michael's voice slithered through the line, venomous and shaking with rage. "You think you've won, don't you? You humiliated me in front of everyone, but you have no idea what you've unleashed." "Michael," I whispered, my throat tightening. "Stop this. You're destroying yourself." He laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "No, Mother. I'm destroying you. Tomorrow morning, the world will hear the truth. That you're a fraud, that you forged those papers, that you've been conspiring with some criminal Daniel dragged into our lives. I'll bury you in court. You won't last a week." The line went dead before I could respond. I sank into the chair, the phone slipping from my hand. For years I had dreamed of hearing my son call me Mom with love again. Now the word dripped with venom. Aaron found me like that, trembling, staring at nothing. He set a thick folder on the table. "It's time to stop reacting," he said. "We need to end this." I opened the folder. Inside were more contracts, more letters, Daniel's own words, written to Aaron. Some detailed the debts tied to Michael's inheritance. Others outlined transfers proving the mansion and money were poisoned with lawsuits. It was all there, black and white. Evidence not just of what Daniel had left me, but of how he had deliberately set Michael up for ruin. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. "If this goes public," Aaron nodded, "he's finished." The next morning, the storm arrived. News outlets exploded with Michael's accusations that I had forged Daniel's signature, that Aaron was a criminal associate, that I was manipulating courts to steal what rightfully belonged to him. Cassandra posed for cameras, tears glistening as she spoke of betrayal and a grieving son fighting for his father's legacy. For a moment, I faltered. They were skilled liars. The world had always believed them before. Why not again? But then Aaron placed a small recorder on the table. He pressed play. Michael's voice filled the room, angry, careless, recorded during his fight in the vault. "Dad trusted me with everything. If you think you're entitled to more than scraps, you're delusional. Whatever Dad left you, it's mine, and I'll find it." It was the proof we needed. Proof he knew Daniel had left me something. Proof his story was built on lies. "We take this to Whitaker," Aaron said firmly. "Today, before he digs himself in deeper." At the courthouse, I handed over the deed, the contracts, Daniel's letters, and the recording. Whitaker's eyes widened as he listened. "This is ironclad. With this, we can not only secure your claim, but file for injunctions against Michael. His assets can be frozen until the investigation clears." For the first time, my heart lifted. Justice wasn't just possible. It was within reach. But Michael wasn't finished. That evening, as I returned to the trailer, I saw him waiting by the steps. His suit was wrinkled, his tie gone, his eyes bloodshot. Cassandra was nowhere to be seen. "Mom," he said, his voice hoarse. I stopped, my stomach twisting. "What do you want?" He took a step closer, hands raised. "Just to talk." Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I stood my ground. "Talk." He laughed bitterly. "You've ruined me." "The bank accounts are frozen. The lawsuits are piling up. Cassandra's threatening to leave. You've destroyed everything I had." His voice cracked. "Why? Why would you do this to me?" Tears stung my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "You did it to yourself, Michael. Your father warned me not to trust you." And he was right. His face twisted with rage, then desperation. "I'm your son," he whispered. "Doesn't that mean anything?" I took a step back. It meant everything. "Until you chose greed over family." His shoulders sagged. For a moment, I thought I saw the boy he used to be, the child who once pressed his head against my chest. But it vanished, replaced by something darker. "You'll regret this," he muttered. Then he turned and walked into the night, his shadow long and broken. Aaron emerged from behind the trailer, having listened to everything. "He's finished," he said quietly. "The courts will bury him. But be careful. Desperate men do desperate things." I clutched the deed tighter, my resolve hardening. Daniel's fortune was mine now. Not for greed, but for survival, for dignity, for justice. And I swore, as the crickets sang in the dark, that I would not let Michael take one more piece of me. The days after Michael's collapse were a blur of headlines, hearings, and restless nights. Every news station carried his downfall. Harper Air under federal scrutiny. Lavish lifestyle funded by fraud? Charity gala turns to scandal. Reporters camped outside the mansion, their cameras catching Cassandra storming off with suitcases, while Michael shouted from the doorway. I watched it all from the small trailer on Route 9, the deed and letters locked safely in Whitaker's office. A bitter irony struck me. The mansion full of chandeliers and marble now looked like a gilded cage, while my rusty trailer had become a fortress of truth. But Aaron's warning haunted me. Desperate men do desperate things. That desperation arrived one stormy night. The wind rattled the trailer windows, rain drumming on the roof. I was dozing when the sound of gravel crunching jolted me awake. Headlights swept across the field. A car door slammed. I grabbed the crowbar from beside my bed, heart pounding. A shadow moved outside, and then the door burst open. Michael. His hair was wild, his suit soaked through, eyes bloodshot and blazing. He reeked of whiskey, his voice a broken snarl. "You ruined me," he roared, stumbling inside. "The accounts, gone, Cassandra, gone. They froze everything, and it's your fault." I raised the crowbar, my arms trembling. "Michael, stop. Get out before you do something you can't undo." He laughed, a hollow sound. "Undo? You've already undone me. I had the world in my hands, and you tore it away. For what? To humiliate me? To watch me crawl?" His voice cracked into a sob, then twisted back into fury. He lunged for me, his hands clawing at the satchel I'd left on the table. "Give it to me. The deed, the papers. They're mine." "No!" I screamed, shoving him back with all my strength. He crashed into the wall, knocking over a lamp. Sparks flew as the bulb shattered, plunging the room into flickering shadows. We struggled, his fists pounding, mine clutching the crowbar. For a moment, I thought he might kill me. Then, with a sickening crash, the crowbar struck the table instead of him, splintering the wood. Papers scattered across the floor. Michael froze, his eyes falling on Daniel's final letter that had slipped from the satchel. His shaking hands snatched it up. He scanned the words, his face twisting as he read, "The true inheritance is Linda's. Trust no one, not even Michael." His hands shook. His lips quivered. Then, in a voice broken and hollow, he whispered, "He hated me." Tears blurred my vision. "He didn't hate you, Michael. He feared what you'd become. And tonight, you've proved him right." He stared at me, the paper crumpling in his grip. For the first time, I saw not arrogance or fury, but emptiness. Then the sirens wailed. Red and blue lights flashed through the rain-streaked windows. Aaron burst through the door with 2 officers, his voice steady and firm. "Michael Harper!" one officer barked. "You're under arrest for attempted assault and obstruction of justice." Michael didn't fight. He sank to his knees, the letter falling from his hands, his eyes vacant. The officers cuffed him, reading his rights. As they led him out, he turned his head, meeting my gaze one last time. "Are you happy now, Mom?" His voice was barely a whisper. "You destroyed your own son." The door slammed behind them. Silence swallowed the trailer. My body shook, the crowbar slipping from my hand. Aaron knelt beside me, steadying my trembling shoulders. "You didn't destroy him, Linda. He destroyed himself. You just survived it." I buried my face in my hands, sobbing, not out of victory, but grief, because no matter how justified, no matter how necessary, I had lost the boy I once cradled, the son I had prayed for. The next morning, the news blared his arrest. Michael Harper, taken into custody after violent incident. Cameras showed him being led away in cuffs, soaked in rain, his once perfect image shattered. Cassandra was nowhere to be seen. Whitaker called soon after. "The court has validated your deed, Mrs. Harper. The Harper building is legally yours. Your husband's hidden estate, what remains of it, has been secured in your name." I hung up, staring at the peeling walls of the trailer. I had won. But at what cost? Daniel's fortune was mine. Yes, justice had been served. Yet the mansion stood empty, Cassandra vanished, and Michael, my only son, sat in a cell, consumed by the greed that had hollowed him out. Aaron poured me a cup of coffee, his scarred hands steady. "You have the power to rebuild, Linda," he said quietly. "But first, you need to decide. What will you do with it? Use it for vengeance or for peace?" I stared out the window at the storm clouds breaking into light. For the first time in years, the choice was mine. The morning after Michael's arrest, I woke to a silence I hadn't felt in months. No threats, no footsteps outside the trailer, no phone buzzing with Cassandra's venom, just the sound of the wind moving through the dry fields. For the first time, I allowed myself to breathe. But the world hadn't stopped. News trucks swarmed outside the Harper mansion. Reporters shouted through microphones about the fallen heir and family betrayal. I watched from the trailer's old TV as commentators dissected every detail. Michael's debts, Cassandra's sudden disappearance, the suspicious gold coins she had flaunted on social media just days earlier. And then, a headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen: Judge grants Linda Harper full ownership of Harper Building. I sank into the chair, the weight of it hitting me. It was mine, not scraps, not charity. Daniel had chosen me, and now the law had confirmed it. Aaron arrived that afternoon with a solemn expression. "It's done," he said, handing me a thick envelope. "The accounts are secured. The property is in your name. Michael can't touch any of it." I stared at the papers, my hands trembling. "Then it's really over." Aaron shook his head. "Not quite. Cassandra's still out there, and she won't walk away empty-handed." He was right. Within hours, she resurfaced, smiling on television, claiming she was the victim of Daniel's schemes and my obsession with revenge. But her mask cracked when reporters asked about the federal inquiry into her sudden wealth. Coins she'd paraded online had already been seized as evidence. The walls were closing in on her, and I knew it was only a matter of time before she turned on Michael completely. The true ending came days later, in the courthouse. I sat in the gallery as Michael was brought in, thinner, disheveled, the fire gone from his eyes. Cassandra was nowhere to be seen. She had already struck her deal, trading testimony for leniency. When Michael saw me, his face twisted, not with rage this time, but something emptier: defeat. The judge read out the charges: attempted assault, obstruction, fraud tied to the inheritance. His bail was denied, his assets frozen, and when the gavel came down, the echo rang through me like thunder. I walked out into the sunlight, the courthouse steps buzzing with reporters, microphones thrust toward me, questions firing like arrows. "Mrs. Harper, how does it feel to win? Do you have anything to say to your son? What will you do with your fortune?" I paused, looking into the sea of faces. For years I had been invisible. Now the world demanded my voice. "My husband left me the truth," I said simply. "And the truth is, greed destroys families. Remember that I pushed through the crowd, leaving their cameras behind." That evening I stood before the Harper mansion. The once proud house loomed dark, its windows empty, its marble steps cracked. It no longer felt like home. It felt like a monument to Daniel's lies, Michael's greed, and Cassandra's hunger. I didn't want it. Instead, I walked to the Harper Building downtown, its glass catching the last light of the day. This was mine now, not because it glittered, not because it could buy respect, but because Daniel had trusted me with it. Inside, I found Aaron waiting. Together, we walked through the empty halls, imagining what it could become: offices, apartments, maybe even a shelter for families cast aside like I once was. I touched the cool stone wall and whispered, "This is where it begins again." Aaron smiled faintly. "Daniel thought you'd know what to do, and I think he was right." For the first time, I didn't feel like a discarded widow, a mother exiled to a rusty trailer. I felt like a woman standing on her own ground, holding the keys to a future no one could strip away. That night, back in the trailer, I sat by the trunk one last time. The folders, the coins, the secrets, they were no longer weights dragging me down. They were proof that I had survived. I whispered into the silence, as if Daniel could still hear me. You were wrong about one thing. I don't just have the truth, I have strength. And though my son's face still haunted me, though my heart still ached for the boy he once was, I knew I could not carry his ruin any longer. The inheritance was mine. The justice was done. And at last, the Harper legacy belonged to me. Weeks passed before I could walk through a day without the shadow of fear clinging to me. For the first time in decades, my nights weren't filled with slammed doors or whispered arguments. The Harper name had been dragged through the mud. Yes, but from that mud, I had clawed out something clean: dignity. The courts were still grinding through Michael's case. Cassandra had fled, her name whispered in gossip columns, her face plastered on tabloids with headlines like, "Socialite betrays Harper heir." Every word of it stung, but not for her, for me, because behind every article, every headline, was the truth of a family that had torn itself apart with greed. The Harper mansion stood empty now. The bank had placed liens on it, investigators swarmed its halls, and the grand chandeliers collected dust. Neighbors passed by, pointing, whispering about how quickly fortunes fall. I didn't care anymore. The mansion was a tomb of betrayal. Instead, I poured my energy into the Harper building. It became my anchor, my redemption. I met with architects and lawyers, investors, and city officials. The plan was bold: to turn it into affordable housing and community centers, a place for mothers who had been abandoned, for families on the edge of losing everything, for people who needed a chance like I once had. "Are you sure about this?" Aaron asked one evening as we walked through the lobby. "You could sell this place, pocket millions, and never worry again." I smiled faintly. I've lived through worry my whole life. This is about more than money. It's about proving that the Harper name doesn't have to end in shame. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Then Daniel was right. He left it with the only one who could carry it. Not long after, I received a letter in prison handwriting. Michael. I sat at my trailer's table, the envelope trembling in my hand. Part of me wanted to toss it into the fire, to burn his words before they ever touched me. But I couldn't. He was still my son, no matter how deeply he had hurt me. The letter was short, scrawled in anger and sorrow. "Mom, I don't understand why you chose them over me. I was your son. I should have had it all. But you gave it away. You ruined me. Maybe one day you'll realize what you've done. Until then, don't write me. Michael." Tears blurred the ink. For all his rage, for all his cruelty, there was still that boy I had once cradled. But he was buried beneath layers of greed and entitlement I couldn't strip away. I folded the letter, tucked it in Daniel's old trunk, and whispered, "I didn't ruin you, Michael. You chose your path." Weeks later, as the Harper building renovations began, I found myself standing at the grand opening ceremony. Reporters buzzed, cameras flashed, but this time I wasn't the humiliated widow or the discarded mother. I was Linda Harper, the woman who had survived. I stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd. Families, children, officials, curious neighbors. My voice trembled, but it was strong, enough to carry. "This building was once a monument to secrets," I said. "Now it will be a home for hope. My husband left me this gift, but tonight I give it to all of you. Let this place stand as proof that no amount of betrayal, greed, or cruelty can destroy a spirit determined to rise." Applause thundered, but it was the sight of a little girl in the front row that caught my breath. She clutched her grandmother's hand, smiling up at her. For a fleeting moment, I saw myself and Michael, before the lies, before the greed. My chest ached, but I let the ache live alongside the triumph. Because survival isn't about erasing pain, it's about carrying it and still moving forward. That night, I returned to the trailer one last time. I walked through its dusty rooms, ran my hand along the walls, and whispered goodbye. Daniel had left me here to begin again, and I had. But now I no longer needed its shadows. I locked the door, slid the key into my pocket, and turned toward the city lights in the distance, the Harper building shining like a beacon. The inheritance was mine, but more than that, the future was mine, and no one, not even my own son, could ever take it from me again.